Gentlemen, may I have your attention? The criminal known as Vagabond has escaped custody once again. She is wanted for acts of terrorism, kidnapping, conspiracy against the Empire. The list goes on. Whoever shall corral this heathen and bring her to justice will be greatly rewarded. As it stands, she has 53,000 cats on her head. She is wanted alive. Do not fail.
Vagabond's next target was Slave Master Grand in Eye Socket, the only slave farm in the Storm Gap coast. It was heavily guarded at the front entrance, but Vagabond was definitely feeling confident in her methods of intrusion and her martial artistry. Maybe she was too confident. That is one of her major character flaws, and with each victory, it only seemed to persist stronger. Why shouldn't she believe in herself too much? She had come so far since she was just a drifter with a legendary sword that she lost on day 2. You may be thinking about our hero. She don't know when to quit. And you would be right. She really, truly does not know when to quit. With her shackles unlocked and removed and her prison cage now easily opened, she'd wait until nightfall to make her move on Slave Master Grand. Back in Shem, the rest of the squad, who we now know as the Tin Fisters, were training and keeping things running as smoothly as possible. With Vagabond sure to return with another prisoner any day now, they would need to get strong. The sun went down over the Storm Gap coast, and Vagabond made her move. She was almost instantaneously found out. She booked it through the desert and let the heat die down a little, and once it was dark, like actually dark this time, she was successful in her breaking, entering, and kidnapping scheme. She brought Master Grand to his new home, locked the door and threw away the key, took all his stuff so he could match his nude friend Slave Master Reuben, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. Just kidding, we're not done, there's still the rest of the Empire to demolish. Next, I sent Vagabond to check in with Tin Fist and the gang in Spring. On the way there, we stopped in at Flats Lagoon and we picked up a tech hunter sharpshooter named Ruby. Unfortunately, as Ruby was making her way home, the Tin Fisters were presently getting duked on by the Band of Bones, who have no reason to bully us yet continue to do so, all politics aside. As Ruby had just made it into Shem, we were warned of an elite hunter assault descending on the camp. She tried desperately to distract them with the group of dust bandits along the way, but they had only one target in mind. They arrived shortly after, and the squad tried to prepare for the inevitable, but to our despair, they penetrated our defenses with the greatest of ease, knocked everybody out cold, and released our prisoners. I voraciously scoured the surrounding desert for any signs of Grand and Reuben, but again, we lost our targets for good. I prayed that enough time had passed for the slave camp to fall. Vagabond was checking in with Tin Fist, who was pleased at her recent alliance with the rebel farmers. She urgently needed to go back to Eye Socket, but this time she would not be alone. Unfortunately, Grand had made it home in time for the camp to not have fallen. Vagabond and her team of anti-slavers would wait until the perfect moment to strike. Night came, and not a moment too soon. Vagabond elusively entered the camp. However, her friends were not as sneaky as she was, and the guards definitely noticed. Vagabond needs to operate alone. Noted. The anti-slavers fought with honor and grit, but were too heavily outnumbered, and were now all facing slavery themselves. Of course, this was not Vagabond's first rodeo, and she knew how to get out of this one. She freed herself, and then just as the sun was beginning to show itself, she was able to free her fellow anti-slaver, Termine. Vagabond spotted Slave Master Grand just outside of the noble house, and he was a Shek now for some reason when he was a Greenlander earlier. Riddle me that one. She was seen by the guards and could not go in for the old reliable stealth knockout. Grand bested her in combat, and Termine kept the guards busy while Vagabond recovered. The slavers prepared her for life as a slave, but not before she was able to stealthily get up and knock out Grand before the alarmed guards could hit her. He was captured. Again. She made her escape through the desert. There was no time to rescue the anti-slavers now, and besides, they of all people would understand the gravity behind the decision to run. She made it home in no time flat and quickly detained her hostage, and this time, he would not be rescued. I needed to make sure of it. Our squad needed some serious boosting to their stats to be able to handle upcoming assaults. So we did something a little unethical by capturing one of the desert's great apex predators and turned it into a training dummy. Then Vagabond needed rest. because the world was not done fighting back yet. So I sent the next bravest member of our squad to make sure that eye socket was clear and the slaves were free. Silvershade was taking to the desert by himself for the first time ever, and I had nothing but faith in him. Eye socket was most certainly clear of enemies, and Silvershade could go in and free the remaining slave as well as the captured anti-slavers. Vagabond met up with Silvershade and the two of them continued to free the surviving slaves. Once finished, Vagabond got a second beak thing to keep as a training dummy, who she brought home with the utmost tender loving care. Back at the base, the team had a little run-in with the Black Dragon ninjas, and my dumbass didn't record any of it. But, as seen, we whooped their asses and took everything they owned. The Tin Fisters had spent several days preparing for the retaliation that was inevitably on its way. However, with all the hours everyone had been putting in, they couldn't keep up with the food, so I sent Ruby and Ludwig on a grocery trip. And on their way home, they recruited a giant Shek sharpshooter woman named Nifari, who may have had a bit too much to drink. After the Tin Fisters successfully defended the base from a mob of hungry bandits, they could afford to handle things around home while Vagabond went on a little rescue mission. Tengu's vault houses all the criminals that the United Cities finds particularly troublesome. There is one crazy motherfucker caged up in here that Vagabond had specific interest in freeing, Yabuta of the Sands. She waited for the sun to fully set over the skim sands. 8 samurai guarded the entrance. She very cautiously made her way through the gate, not raising a single suspicion. Once at the top of the vault, she crept gingerly inside. Yabuta was all the way on the top floor, and each level had a number of samurai inhabiting it. She evaded the line of sight for every single one of them and effectively made it to Yabuta's cage. First, the shackles came off. Then, the cage was open. As soon as he was free, this crazy motherfucker made a run for it and started fighting every single person he encountered, leaving me wondering, who the fuck did we just set loose on the desert? Vagabond helped as much as she could simply because we needed him to leave here alive. Once he was unconscious, she scooped him up and hauled ass back home. Yabuta was now free from Tengu's vault. She laid him in bed so he could rest and recover. Then, Vagabond immediately left to go get one more friend who was known to be hanging out in Black Scratch. And now that he was right as rain again, Yabuta got up and left without even saying goodbye. Regardless, it seemed that our new friend was just as interested in finding Vagabond. Big Bo was ready to join the Tin Fisters, and she was now on our side. I sent the two of them to the Great Desert to take on separate missions. If we had 2 sneaky assassin types, then taking out all the nobles we needed to would start going much quicker. On the way there, we saw exactly the reason why we freed Yabuta from prison. A new faction had entered the desert, the Yabuta Outlaws. They're hostile to every single faction, but if they stick around, cannibals shouldn't be a problem in the Great Desert when Tengu is gone. Not allies, not friends, just a different problem that might keep worse ones out. Vagabond arrived at her destination. First, she took out Southstone Camp. Now she'd be taking Master Haga from its sister camp, simply known as Stone Camp. Vagabond would stake out the camp and Bo was headed for her destination. Unfortunately, she's not as sneaky as Vagabond just yet and alerted the guards at Stone Camp to her own presence. One followed her nearly all the way to her target's location, Port North. She seemed to lose him, only to insult a group of Garus who then started chasing her. She escaped through the flooded backside of Port North and finally lost the Garus. She hid in the back and would also wait until nighttime to strike. But that's when I noticed the slaves shouting that the master was dead. Bo moved closer to the gate to see what was happening, and that's when I was warned of an Eyegore assault headed to our camp. And I'll be quite honest, I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it sure as shit didn't sound good. The anti-slavers were also sending reinforcements our way, so that would surely help. This absolute beefcake of a Shek anti-slaver was out there taking everyone out on his own, but I did not see the slave master out there, so it was unclear why the slaves thought she was gone. Our target here was the noble Lady Kana, and she was safely secured in her room during the fight. On the other side of the Great Desert, Vagabond effortlessly permeated Stone Camp's noble house and nabbed her villain and fled without raising a single alarm. At Port North, I was hoping to have the same luck with Bo. She swam up to the noble house. After several agonizing lockpicking attempts, Bo finally was able to slip her way inside. Vagabond was still far behind the Eyegore assault, and at that point I questioned if it was even worth bringing her home for it. Finally, Bo sprinted up the stairs and delicately snatched up Lady Kana. She was also able to break out of the city, but not without alerting the samurai to her presence. Luckily, by morning, she was able to outrun them and had a clear shot home. Back home, the team needed to prepare for what was likely going to be the end of the Tin Fisters. But by morning, one of the biggest mobs of hungry bandits I'd yet to encounter came barging into our camp. I had faith in the team. They'd taken on plenty of hungry bandits without breaking a sweat at this point, but there was just so many of them. One by one, the Tin Fisters fell. With an incoming Eyegore assault, a preemptive ass beating by the hungry bandits was literally the furthest thing from my mind. Blood spilled everywhere, and the stupid nomads did nothing to help. The anti-slavers were approaching quickly and would definitely arrive before Eyegore and his samurai. Vagabond was on the edge of Venge and the Great Desert, right behind the assault. At that moment, I thought it wasn't worth the gamble of the United Cities potentially killing her and or releasing Master Haga. So I told her to hang back in the way station in the Grey Desert. Bo was right behind her in the sands of Hang, and I would have her rendezvous with Vagabond at the way station. But as she entered the eye, she found some trouble. A skimmer was right on her ass and it hit her in the leg, slowing her tremendously. One more hit and Bo was done, and Lady Kana would be free. She almost made it, but what I said would happen is exactly what happened, and Lady Kana made her escape. Vagabond healed up Bo and would protect her until she woke up. That's when Jaeger and the anti-slaver reinforcements arrived. And immediately after them came Eyegore's crew. Jaeger had the absolute balls to say that he figured we could use some reinforcements. I wonder what gave him that idea. And before the assault even had a chance to attack, Ruby was dead. She had only just become a Tin Fister, and had lost her life because of it. We lost a member before Eyegore even lifted a finger. All hell broke loose. This was the moment I realized we were no longer some rinky-dink justice team. We were war criminals. Samurai fought anti-slaver ninjas, and my team couldn't even get off the ground to try to fight back. Paraslo crawled around trying to heal everyone so as not to lose any more squad members. The anti-slavers fought valiantly. Before long, the fight was over, and I think we won? All anti-slavers ran back to Springs, save for Jaeger, who spent the next few days protecting us. The sands were stained red with the blood of enemy and friend alike. On the moon of Kenshi, it seems that every time you get stronger, the world reminds you that there is always someone tougher. But somehow, the Tin Fisters survived. Barely. That same morning, Big Bo finally woke up from her sand nap and it was time to go home. Vagabond and Bo arrived home shortly thereafter, imprisoned Master Haga, and before Vagabond would go back to Port North for another snatching excursion, it was time to rest. When night came again, Vagabond made the trek back to Port North. On the way there, she saw that the stone camp had successfully fallen, but Port North definitely had not. When the cover of dark came, Vagabond would make sure that it would fall. She swam up to the noble house just as Bo had done. She didn't have to pick the lock to walk right on in. She ran upstairs and grabbed Lady Kana, then made way for the gate. On her way out, she spotted another anti-slaver on the inside. Vagabond darted through the lonely desert sands with a noble over her shoulder. She made it all the way to Venge, having a rather uneventful trip when she was warned of an incoming Holy Nation assault. That was exactly what she wanted to come home to. But all she could do about it was say, "Bring it on, pussy boys." Quickly, she imprisoned Lady Kana, and the team all stood guard, ready for the next fight. Before the Holy Nation could strike, the team had a run-in with the Band of Bones, who were chump change to them by now. But the elite hunters sure as hell were not, and they were on their way next. Just like that, the Holy Assault was here, and it was on. The Tin Fisters fought with valor, for their cause was noble and just. They would not let their work be for nothing. If they fell, they would come back stronger to take on the next challenge. We saw them going for the gate, and we could not allow them to pass through. Nefari was firing shots on them, and Vagabond, ever quick-witted, had the idea to run the Paladins and Holy Chosen around in front of the gate so that Nefari could fire on them while the other team members recuperated. And for the first time, we got a new message, that the Holy Assault had been defeated. The remaining paladins scurried away, and Vagabond and Ludwig healed the team. There would be no time to waste, as the elite hunters would be here next. Silvershade went back inside to repair the gate since the Holy Nation had done so much damage to it. Nefari was passing out from starvation, so he would need to get food for her ASAP. This time around, the Tin Fisters would be down 2 members. The elite hunters arrived soon after, and now it was time for the squad to prove their will to fight for what was right when the odds were stacked against them. The other Tin Fisters fell all too soon, and Vagabond used the same tactic as last time since Silvershade had some emergency potatoes that revitalized Nefari enough for her to shoot at the hunters. But with one bad hit to the leg, Vagabond couldn't keep up, and down she went. They were all over our gate like human flesh on a skin bandit. They broke down our door and ran straight for Nefari. Silvershade, the farmer, was our last hope. As he crossed the river to reach the intruders, it was already too late. They freed both Haga and Kana. Silvershade chased a naked Lady Kana into the desert. Stone Camp had already fallen, but if she made it back to Port North, we'd be back at square one with them. As the trio approached the settled nomads, Lady Kana decided to fight back against Silvershade. He landed a couple hits, but nothing that counted, and all it took was one well-placed kick to the gut to knock him down, and for her to run off into the desert, naked as a jaybird. Vagabond now knew for certain that kidnapping the nobles would not be enough. They needed to die to ensure we would not be repeating missions from here on out. The assault ended, and everyone gathered themselves. What were they to do now? They would heal, and recover, and continue to fight the good fight, because if there's one thing that's true about Vagabond, she don't know when to quit. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to everyone who has shown love to this little series. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, bye-bye.